Have you ever faced a moment in your life when your strength seemed to drain away, leaving you feeling helpless as everything around you began to unravel? In such times, do you find yourself questioning how much more you can endure, wondering if you have the fortitude to keep going? It's precisely in these dark valleys that our deepest fears and vulnerabilities surface, forcing us to confront the unsettling reality that we are not in control. But it is also here, in the heart of adversity, where true faith is forged. When the foundations of our lives seem to crumble, we are invited to step into a deeper trust, a trust that acknowledges our limitations and surrenders to the boundless wisdom and love of God. The path ahead may be shrouded in uncertainty, but faith calls us to believe that God is still guiding our steps, even when we cannot see the way forward. The scriptures remind us that His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Yet, how often do we struggle against this truth, clinging to our own understanding even as it fails us? In these moments, God's love reaches out to us, not to remove our struggles but to lead us through them, transforming our pain into a deeper reliance on Him. This is the paradox of faith where we are weakest. God's strength is made perfect. But this surrender is not easy. It demands that we let go of our need for control, that we release our fears into His hands, and that we trust in His plan even when it remains hidden from us. It's a trust that says, "Lord, I don't understand, but I know You do." Dear friends, this journey of faith is not one we walk alone. Stay with me as we delve deeper into the comforting truth that God's presence is with us, even in our darkest moments. Together, we can find the hope and courage to keep moving forward, to keep trusting, even when the way is unclear. If this message speaks to your heart, please take a moment to like and comment below. Your interaction helps to share this message with others who may be struggling with their own doubts and fears. Let's continue this journey together, seeking the peace and strength that only God can provide as we move into the next part of this powerful message. Let me hear a blessed from you all. C.S. Lewis once said, "God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from Himself because it is not there." There is no such thing. This quote invites us to consider the essence of trust in God, especially when life's circumstances leave us bewildered and searching for answers. Have you ever found yourself questioning the path ahead, wondering why certain doors have closed or why you seem to be wandering in a wilderness of uncertainty? In these moments of confusion, where do you turn? Do you rely on your own understanding, or do you lean into the promise that God's plans are for your good, even when they seem obscured by the trials you face? Jeremiah 29 verse 11 is a beacon of hope in these situations, reminding us that God declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Yet, how often do we struggle to trust this promise when the future feels anything but hopeful? It is here, in this tension between our fears and God's assurances, that our faith is both tested and deepened. We are called to trust not in what we see, but in the One who sees all. This trust is not passive. It requires us to actively surrender our anxieties and doubts, believing that God's plans, though mysterious, are always rooted in His love and wisdom. C.S. Lewis further illuminates this truth by reminding us that God reveals Himself most fully when we are united in community, loving, helping, and supporting one another as members of one body. Just as musicians in a band create harmony by playing together, so too do we reflect God's image more clearly when we live in unity. Are we, as Lewis challenges us, living in a way that allows others to see God through our actions, especially when circumstances are difficult? This communal aspect of faith is crucial, for it is in our connections with others that God often makes His presence known, offering comfort, guidance, and strength. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Have you ever found yourself grappling with the feeling that your life is spiraling out of control? Perhaps a cherished relationship has ended, a job has been lost, or a dream deferred. In these moments, it's natural to question, why is this happening to me? The pain of these setbacks can feel overwhelming, and it's easy to become frustrated, wondering if God has turned a deaf ear to your struggles. But what if these seemingly meaningless challenges are, In fact, a part of a greater plan that we cannot yet comprehend. It's in these times of uncertainty that our faith is truly tested. We may not always understand the twists and turns our lives take, but the Bible reassures us in Isaiah 55 verse 8, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." This verse challenges us to trust in God's infinite wisdom, even when our limited perspective cannot grasp the full picture. But how do we hold on to faith when everything seems to be falling apart? C.S. Lewis offers a profound insight into this dilemma. We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. This quote captures the tension between trust and doubt that we all experience. It's not that we doubt God's goodness, but rather we fear the pain that might accompany His plan. Yet, Lewis reminds us that the pain is often the precursor to something greater, something extraordinary that God is preparing us for. Can we find the courage to trust that God's plan, though hidden, is ultimately for our good? As we walk through these valleys, it's crucial to remember that God's ways are not ours. Just because something seems unfair or incomprehensible does not mean that God is not in control. He sees the end from the beginning, and what seems like a setback today may be the very thing that propels us into His extraordinary purpose for our lives. Dear friends, stay with me as we explore how to deepen our trust in God's promises, especially during times of uncertainty. Let this message be a reminder that even when life feels like it's going backward, God is still at work, weaving together a future far beyond our wildest dreams. If this message resonates with you, I encourage you to like and comment below. Your engagement not only spreads hope but also strengthens our community as we navigate these challenges together. Let's continue this journey, hand in hand, seeking the wisdom, peace, and extraordinary destiny that come from trusting in God's perfect plan for our lives. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Have you ever found yourself questioning why certain doors in your life have closed, or why you face challenges that seem both unjust and overwhelming? These moments of pain, confusion, and loss often leave us wondering where God is in the midst of our trials. Yet, it's precisely in these difficult times that we are being shaped and prepared for something far greater than we can imagine. Have you reached a point where you're asking, "Why me?" or "What good could possibly come from this?" It's important to remember that our steps are not random, they are directed by the Lord. And even when the path seems steep and treacherous, He is guiding us toward a greater purpose. Romans 8 verse 28 reminds us that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. This doesn't mean that every individual event in our lives will be pleasant or fair, far from it. There will be times of discomfort, heartache, and what feels like unbearable pressure. But these trials are not without reason. They are the very tools God uses to refine our character, to strengthen our faith, and to prepare us for the blessings that lie ahead. C.S. Lewis also spoke of the transformative power of suffering, urging us to recognize those vital moments when we must surrender to God, acknowledging that we cannot make it on our own. "You must do this, I can't," is a cry that resonates with anyone who has ever been brought to their knees by life's challenges. But instead of watching your mind and worrying whether you've truly surrendered, ask yourself, are you willing to trust that these closed doors and difficult seasons are part of God's plan to lead you to something greater? The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the setbacks you faced, each of these was allowed by God, not to harm you, but to prepare you for the doors He is about to open. In Revelation 3 verse 8, we find a powerful promise. "I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." This verse is a reminder that even when we feel weak, even when we've been through trials that have left us weary, God is faithful to open doors that no one else can close. Those painful endings were not just the decisions of others, they were part of God's plan to remove obstacles and clear the way for something better. The struggles you faced were not in vain, they were necessary to develop the strength, confidence, and determination you'll need for the new levels of growth and blessing that are on the horizon. As we reflect on these truths, I encourage you to stay with me as we explore how God's guidance, even through the darkest times, leads us to our destiny. If this message resonates with you, please take a moment to like and comment below. Your engagement helps spread this message of hope and faith to others who may be struggling to see the bigger picture. Together, let's continue to seek God's purpose in every challenge, trusting that He is preparing us for the extraordinary future He has in store. C.S. Lewis wisely noted, "Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted." In spite of your changing moods, have you ever found yourself in a place where you've tried your hardest to live out the Christian virtues, only to fall short time and again? Perhaps you've reached a point where you feel utterly bankrupt, realizing that even your best efforts are merely returning to God what was always His. This realization can be deeply unsettling, leading to feelings of worry, discouragement, and even despair. How do we cope when our hearts grow weary from trying, when our spirits feel crushed under the weight of failure? It is precisely in these moments of vulnerability that true faith is tested and revealed. Lewis teaches us that faith is not about never doubting or never failing, rather, it's about choosing to trust in God's sovereignty, even when our circumstances seem incomprehensible. Can you find the strength to say, "God, I don't understand what I'm going through, but I trust in you"? This trust isn't a passive resignation, but an active decision to place our worries in God's hands, believing that He is working everything for our good, even when we can't see how. Think about the disciples gathered with Jesus at the Last Supper. They had witnessed His miracles, felt the surge of hope as He entered Jerusalem to shouts of Hosanna, and now they faced the unthinkable, His impending crucifixion. Their world was about to be turned upside down, and yet Jesus asked them to trust in a plan that would only make sense in hindsight. Similarly, Lewis reminds us that many aspects of our faith journey can't be fully understood until we've traveled further along the path. We are often called to trust God at crossroads where the way forward isn't clear, where the challenges seem insurmountable, and where His plan feels hidden from view. But what if this sense of bankruptcy, this acknowledgement of our own insufficiency, is exactly where God wants us to be? Could it be that in our recognition of our limitations, we open ourselves to the boundless grace of God? By surrendering our need for control, we create space for His peace to take root in our hearts. This is not the peace that comes from understanding everything or from everything going according to our plans, but the peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that comes from knowing that God is in control and that He will lead us where we need to be. So, dear friends, as we navigate our own valleys of uncertainty, let us hold fast to this truth. Stay with me as we explore how trusting in God, even when we don't understand, can transform our lives. If this message resonates with you, please take a moment to like and comment below. Your interaction not only encourages others, but also helps us continue to share these messages of hope and faith. Let's journey together, discovering the deeper truths that only become clear as we walk further along the road of faith. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "God has not been trying an experiment on my faith or love in order to find out their quality. He knew it already. It was I who didn't." This statement invites us to consider the times in our lives when God's plans seem beyond our comprehension, much like that fateful night when Jesus shared a meal with His disciples, only to reveal that His hour had come. Can you recall a moment when life seemed to turn upside down, leaving you disoriented and uncertain of what God was doing? The disciples faced such a moment, expecting joy, but instead being met with the forewarning of betrayal, mockery, and a loss that would leave them feeling abandoned and confused. Jesus knew their hearts would be troubled. He anticipated the fear and doubt that would soon envelop them. Yet, with profound love, He assured them that understanding would come in time. He washed their feet, a gesture of humility that seemed baffling at the moment, and told them, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." John 13, verse 7. How often do we find ourselves in similar situations, struggling to make sense of the trials and tribulations we face? Lewis reminds us that this journey of faith is not one of immediate clarity, but one where understanding unfolds gradually as we walk further down the path God has laid before us. In John 14, verse 27, Jesus comforts his disciples with the words, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." These words resonate deeply when we are in the midst of confusion and pain, serving as a reminder that God's peace is not dependent on our circumstances, but on his unchanging nature. However, how do we truly embrace this peace when everything around us feels chaotic and uncertain? Lewis encourages us to trust that the challenges we face are not random but are purposeful, guiding us through spiritual crossroads that will only make sense once we have journeyed far enough to look back and see the pattern of God's hand in our lives. As we reflect on this, let's ask ourselves, are we willing to trust God even when the path is dark and the future unclear? Can we surrender our need to understand everything now, believing that clarity will come in God's perfect timing? Jesus knew the disciples would struggle, but he also knew that their faith would be strengthened as they learned to rely not on their understanding but on his promises. Lewis captures this beautifully when he notes that many of the directions God gives us may seem impractical or even nonsensical until we have reached the very points in our lives where those directions become vital. Friends, I invite you to stay with me as we explore this journey of faith together, seeking to understand how we can trust in God's wisdom even when we do not understand his ways. If this message resonates with you, please take a moment to like and comment below. Your engagement helps spread this message to others who may also be struggling with uncertainty and doubt. Let's continue this journey together, finding strength and peace in the knowledge that God is with us every step of the way, even when we cannot see the road ahead. C.S. Lewis once profoundly noted, "Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted. In spite of your changing moods, have you ever found yourself in a situation where God's plans seemed utterly incomprehensible, where every effort to understand only led to frustration? Perhaps you've faced unanswered prayers, unexpected delays, or doors that closed without warning. How often do we find ourselves questioning, why is this happening to me? It's in these moments of confusion and pain that we are most tempted to lean on our own understanding, trying desperately to make sense of the chaos. But the truth is, not everything is meant to be understood in the present moment. Proverbs 3 verse 5-6 urges us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." This scripture invites us into a deeper trust, one that requires us to surrender our need for clarity and embrace the mystery of God's timing and purpose. Can you imagine the peace that would come if, instead of striving to connect all the dots ourselves, we allowed God to orchestrate the bigger picture? Lewis understood this struggle well, reminding us that the Christian journey is not about having all the answers, but about developing the habit of faith that remains steady even when our emotions waver and our circumstances seem bleak. When we look back on our lives, it often becomes clear that the very trials we questioned were essential to our growth and purpose. That closed door might have protected you from a path that wasn't meant for you. That delayed prayer might have set you up for something far greater than you could have imagined. As Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 4 verse 16, "Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day." These words remind us that even when our outer circumstances are crumbling, God is at work within us, refining our spirits and aligning our hearts with his will. So why do we continue to wrestle with the need to understand everything? Perhaps it's because we fear the unknown, or because we're afraid of what might happen if we truly let go. Yet, Lewis challenges us to recognize that the Christian life requires a daily renewal of faith, a deliberate focus on God's promises rather than our ever-changing moods. Are you willing to trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when nothing seems to make sense? Are you ready to accept that his ways are higher than ours, that he sees the end from the beginning? Dear friends, I encourage you to stay with me as we explore this truth further, delving into how we can cultivate this habit of faith amidst life's uncertainties. If this message resonates with you, please take a moment to like and comment below. Your engagement not only supports this community but also helps others find hope in their own journeys. Let's continue together, learning to trust in God's perfect timing as we dive deeper into this powerful message. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "In a sense, the whole Christian life consists in accepting that very remarkable offer, but the difficulty is to reach the point of recognizing that all we have done and can do is nothing." Have you ever found yourself caught in the endless cycle of trying to understand why certain things happen or why your life is not unfolding as you had planned? How often do you feel the weight of frustration, wondering why doors remain closed and opportunities seem out of reach? It's in these moments of confusion and disappointment that we are called to shift our focus not on what is going wrong, but on the one who is always working for our good. Rather than exhausting ourselves in the pursuit of answers that may never come, what if we redirected that energy towards gratitude? What if, instead of trying to make sense of every challenge, we chose to thank God for the unseen battles He is fighting on our behalf? The Scriptures remind us to give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 18. But how do we cultivate such a mindset, especially when the circumstances seem anything but worthy of gratitude? Lewis teaches us that true faith involves accepting God's remarkable offer, an offer that goes beyond our understanding and requires us to trust in His plans, even when they diverge from our own. It's not about figuring everything out, it's about resting in the knowledge that God is aligning things in our favor, even when we cannot see it. Have you ever considered that the very frustrations you face might be the catalysts for God's greater purpose in your life? That the closed doors and delayed answers are not signs of neglect, but of His perfect timing? In trusting God, we acknowledge that our own efforts, no matter how diligent, are limited. It is His favor that ultimately surrounds us, His power that opens doors we could never imagine, and His wisdom that brings the right people into our lives at the right time. The challenge is not in doing more, but in trusting more, trusting that God is weaving together a plan for our lives that is far greater than anything we could orchestrate on our own. How different would your life look if you truly believed that God was in control, that He was making the crooked paths straight, and that His plan for you was not only good but perfect? Dear friends, I encourage you to pause and reflect on this truth. Stay with me as we explore how honoring God, even when you don't understand, can lead to blessings beyond your imagination. If this message resonates with you, please take a moment to like and comment below. Your engagement not only supports this message but helps others who may be struggling with similar doubts. Let's continue this journey together, trusting that God is working all things for our good as we move into the next part of this powerful message. After Jesus' crucifixion, the disciples must have thought, was He really the Son of God? God, did we waste our time with Him? I thought He said He would never leave us. There was a period of doubt and confusion where it seemed that Jesus had abandoned them. However, in John 16 verse 33, He says, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." After a while, they began to realize that the crucifixion was part of God's plan. Judas's betrayal was part of the plan. The opposition, the mockery, the ridicule, all had to happen. It was leading to redemption, to salvation. Lewis tells us the question of faith in this sense arises after a man has tried his hardest to practice the Christian virtues and discovered that he fails, and seen that even if he could, he would be merely giving back to God what was already his. In other words, he discovers his bankruptcy. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be." Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed with frustration, questioning what God is doing in your life? Perhaps you feel betrayed by a friend, discouraged by a missed opportunity, or confused by a sudden setback. These moments of pain and uncertainty can feel isolating, leading you to wonder, how can this possibly be part of God's plan for me? Yet, it is in these very moments when the road ahead seems most unclear that we are called to trust in a higher purpose, one that we may not yet fully understand. Consider for a moment that the very things you are praying for God to remove, those betrayals, the lonely nights, the delays, and the struggles, might be the very tools He is using to bring you to the next stage of your destiny. Romans 8 verse 28 assures us that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose, but how often do we find it difficult to see the good in the midst of our pain? How often do we wrestle with the idea that what feels like a setback could actually be a setup for something greater? Lewis reminds us that many truths of the Christian journey only reveal themselves after we have traveled a certain distance along the road. The struggles we face, though bewildering at the time, are often practical lessons that only make sense once we have reached the point where they come into full view. Are we, perhaps, too focused on the discomfort of the moment to see the long-term growth it could be bringing? Jesus Himself could not fulfill His purpose without enduring betrayal, rejection, and suffering. How then can we expect to reach our own destinies without encountering challenges that refine our faith and character? The key to maintaining our faith in such times is recognizing that nothing happens by chance. The enemy does not hold the reins of our lives, God does. Romans 8 verse 38 to 39 powerfully declares that nothing, neither death nor life, angels nor demons, the present nor the future, can separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. This truth should liberate us, allowing us to say with confidence, God, I may not understand, but I trust in you. It may not seem fair, but I will not allow bitterness to take root in my heart. I have faced difficult moments, but I will not let them define me. As you reflect on these truths, remember the words of Galatians 6 verse 9, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. It's not about avoiding pain or bypassing hardship, it's about enduring with the knowledge that God is weaving everything together for a greater purpose. He is still in control, and He will fulfill His plan for your life. Dear friends, if this message resonates with you, I encourage you to take a moment to like and comment below. Your engagement not only strengthens our community but also helps spread this message of hope to others who might be struggling with similar questions and doubts. Stay with us as we continue to explore how we can navigate life's challenges with faith and confidence in God's perfect plan. C.S. Lewis once said, "The more we let God take us over, the more truly ourselves we become, because He made us." Have you ever found yourself wrestling with situations that seem utterly incomprehensible, where every step forward feels like stumbling into the unknown? It is in these moments that Jesus' actions, such as washing the disciples' feet, take on profound significance. Why would He, the Master and Teacher, stoop so low to wash the feet of His followers? Could it be that He was showing us the path to peace amidst uncertainty, preparing us to walk through trials that we cannot yet understand? When Jesus washed their feet, He wasn't merely performing a ritual act of service, He was instilling in them a readiness that transcends human understanding. He didn't wash their eyes, for He knew they wouldn't be able to see the full scope of His plan. He didn't wash their ears, because He understood that they wouldn't grasp the depths of what was to come. Instead, He washed their feet, symbolically preparing them to journey through life's challenges with the peace that comes from trusting in God's plan. How often do we long for clarity, for the ability to see and understand every detail of our path? Yet, Jesus calls us to walk by faith, not by sight, trusting that He has equipped us with everything we need for the journey ahead. In your own life, do you find yourself questioning why certain struggles persist, why certain doors remain closed? Perhaps these moments of confusion and frustration are not hindrances, but rather the very tools God is using to refine and strengthen you. Just as Jesus reassured His disciples, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." He speaks the same to you today. He has prepared you, not by making everything easy, but by washing your feet, by equipping you with the strength and peace to face the unknown. Dear friends, as we journey together through the uncertainties of life, let us remember that God's plan is often hidden from our immediate understanding, but it is never absent. He is preparing you for new levels of influence, leadership, and favor. The challenges you face now are shaping you into the person God intends you to be. Isaiah 54 verse 17 assures us, "No weapon formed against you will prevail." This promise is not just for the victorious moments, but for the battles where victory seems distant and unclear. As you move forward, keep walking in faith, even when the way is obscure. Could it be that what you perceive as a setback is, in fact, a setup for something greater? The disappointment that weighs heavy on your heart might be the very blessing in disguise that God will use to elevate you to heights you never imagined. Trust in His timing. For what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived are the things God has prepared for those who love Him. 1 Corinthians 2 verse 9. Stay with us as we explore more of God's promises and the ways in which He prepares us for the unseen future. If this message has touched your heart, please like and comment below. Your interaction helps to spread this message to others who may be in need of encouragement today. Together, let's continue to trust in God's unfailing plan, even when nothing seems to make sense. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Have you ever felt the sting of a closed door, the frustration of an unfair situation, or the discomfort of being pushed out of your comfort zone? These experiences, though painful, are not without purpose. How often do we find ourselves questioning God's plan when life doesn't go as we had hoped? It's natural to feel disheartened when opportunities seem to slip through our fingers, or when we face betrayal by those we trusted. Yet, could it be that these very challenges are divinely orchestrated to lead us toward a greater purpose? In the book of Job, we are reminded of a profound truth. "I know that you can do all things, no purpose of yours can be thwarted." Job 42:2. This verse speaks to the heart of faith, a faith that trusts in God's sovereignty, even when life feels unfair. It's easy to thank God when doors open, when we receive the promotion, or when relationships flourish. But what about when doors close? When the betrayal cuts deep, or when the path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty? Lewis challenges us to see these moments not as setbacks, but as stepping stones towards our destiny. Closed doors are as much a part of God's plan as open ones. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every seemingly missed opportunity carries within it the seeds of divine purpose. God does not waste our pain. He uses it to mold us, to refine our character, and to prepare us for what lies ahead. When we begin to understand this, our perspective shifts. No longer do we walk around with bitterness or resentment, weighed down by what could have been. Instead, we find peace in the knowledge that God would not allow anything into our lives that He does not intend to use for our good. But this peace requires a shift in mindset, a move from conditional faith to unconditional trust. Anyone can be grateful when life is good, when prayers are answered, and when comfort abounds. But true faith, the kind that God honors, is demonstrated in the face of adversity. It's the decision to smile through the struggle, to show kindness even when we are met with hostility, and to thank God, not just for the blessings but for the challenges as well. So, let me ask you, how do you respond when life doesn't go your way? Do you find yourself asking God to change your circumstances, to remove the discomfort, to smooth the rough edges? Or do you trust that He is using these very difficulties to guide you towards something far greater than you could imagine? Lewis reminds us that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. Are you listening to what God might be shouting to you through your struggles? Dear friends, stay with me as we explore how to cultivate this kind of resilient faith, a faith that remains unshaken, even when life is anything but easy. If this message resonates with you, please like and comment below. Your engagement helps to spread this message to others who may also be in need of encouragement. Let's continue this journey together, discovering how God uses every aspect of our lives, even the painful ones, to lead us closer to our destiny. C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the challenges you face, wondering why the road is so difficult and the answers so elusive? In these moments of doubt and struggle, do you find yourself questioning if you can endure, or if the dreams God placed in your heart are truly achievable? James 1 verse 2-3 reminds us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." But how can we possibly find joy in our trials, especially when the path ahead seems so uncertain? The answer lies in the understanding that God's plans for us are far beyond our comprehension. Psalm 138 verse 8 assures us, "The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me, your love, Lord, endures forever. Do not abandon the works of your hands." This promise invites us to trust that every detail of our lives, even the most painful and confusing, is intricately woven into God's perfect plan. Yet, how often do we let the doubts of others, or our own fears, overshadow this truth? We live in a world filled with experts, facts, and opinions that can easily shake our confidence. But remember, God is not bound by human limitations. His favor can open doors that seem permanently shut and make a way where there appears to be no way. Lewis understood this profound truth when he wrote about the necessity of walking by faith, not by sight. He recognized that God never promised to reveal every step of our journey, nor did he guarantee that everything would make sense from our perspective. Instead, he asks us to trust him in the midst of uncertainty, to believe that he is at work behind the scenes, aligning every piece of our lives according to his divine purpose. Have you ever considered that your current struggle might be the very thing God is using to prepare you for a greater destiny? It's easy to become discouraged when we can't see the full picture, but this is precisely when our faith is most crucial. God's timing is perfect, and though we may not understand it now, the day will come when we look back and see how all the pieces fit together. This is not the time to give up. It's the time to dig deeper into your faith, to hold on to the promises God has spoken over your life, and to trust that he is guiding you toward his extraordinary purpose. Thank you for staying with us through this message. We are honored to be a part of your spiritual journey. If this message has resonated with you, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement not only strengthens our community but also helps spread this message of hope and faith to others who may be facing their own challenges. Let's continue to trust in our Lord, who never fails, who guides us with unending love, and who works all things together for our good. May God's blessings overflow in your life and in the lives of your loved ones. Until we meet again in our next message, keep your faith strong and your heart open to his leading.